David Bell has announced who the Cincinnati Reds opening day starter will be, and it's a bit of a surprise. Frankie Montas is going to take the mound on March 28th for your Cincinnati Reds. And I've only got one question. Why?
You are Locked On Reds, your daily Cincinnati Reds podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Reds, your daily source for all things Cincinnati Reds. I'm Stephen Offenbaker. He's Jeff Carr. We love baseball. We love these Cincinnati Reds. We've taken that love of the game and that love for this team, and we have turned it into information for you. Locked On Reds is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And on today's emergency live bonus, we're just here. We're excited because there's big news. There's been so much news all week long. Jeff missed a bunch of it. We're going to just focus in on the news of the day today, and that is David Bell naming Frankie Montas as the Reds opening day starting pitcher. And Jeff, this is a bit of a head scratcher. This one caught me completely off guard. Never in any of our conversations did this even register as a real possibility. You've got a pitcher that's coming off of a year where he pitched like an inning and a third. You've got a pitcher that's new to the team. You got a pitcher that, you know, while if he returns to his past glory, would be considered a number one, a number two guy on this team, maybe. Nobody ever was throwing around the words ace Frankie Montas. And yet here we are. He's going to be the opening day starter, not Andrew Abbott, not Hunter Green, not Graham Ashcraft, but Frankie Montas.
And we had kind of laid it out. We said that Hunter Green is the favorite and Andrew Abbott is close up there with him. You can make the argument he was the best pitcher that the Reds had last year, so he deserved to be the opening day starter this year. And then there was the dark horse of Graham Ashcraft and all that stuff. Yeah, like the fact that it was announced today. We are now 18 days away as of this recording here on Sunday, March 10th, that we're 18 days away from opening day, and we know who it is. I find this intriguing on a number of levels, and we'll get to the Hunter Green of it all here in a few minutes. But for Frankie Montas, like the 2021, and we've gone into great detail about this in episodes past, so I don't want to rehash all of it, but like in 2021, he was a Cy Young candidate. And his time with Oakland, really before he was traded to the Yankees, if you omit the 2020 season, which I've read about and seen like some good numbers on this, even his xFIP and even his expected ERA were below 4. He was super good. So maybe this is them being like, all right, we have faith that you're healthy and we're showing that we trust that you're ready to go. I mean, all of the reports that we've heard out of spring training so far has been that he has gelled well with the team, that he is leading this young pitching staff. So is this kind of a nod to that? The surface level of it is the guy the Reds just brought in this year and hadn't thrown a pitch in a Reds uniform is now the opening day starter, which we have both agreed is a very ceremonial title.
Yeah, I don't know that other cities weigh in on opening day starters as much as we do here in Cincinnati, but you know, nobody does opening day like Cincinnati, and it's a big deal to be the starter on opening day. This from the comment sections. Sifu, I hope I'm saying that right, says, I like the decision. Sound like he's been a solid veteran presence for the young guys and has looked real good so far. Hunter and Graham haven't been consistent enough. You know, everything the Reds have done, Jeff, over the last 2 seasons now has been breaking away from the way they've always done it. And you and I have talked about this, you know, off air in aspects of the Reds organization that we're not going to get into here, but there's a lot of things being done different. And that started to translate into how the coaching staff's operating, how the front office has been operating. Do you think, let me put it to you like this. Do you think where in the past it's been about the prestige and about the show that is opening day, that the Reds are now moving to, we're going to put the guy that we think is the number one dude, regardless of how long he's been here. We're going to put him on the mound. We're going to put him on the mound day one because we're going to come out of the gate and we're going to win baseball games. It's a different mindset, and that would seem to line up.
I could buy into that. And I like the idea because we've heard multiple different reports about other position battles, other things that are going on where they're just like, we're looking to win. We are looking to October. We are looking to be, this is the best team that we can possibly put on the field in every facet. And I find that intriguing. And I think that's really why I want to discuss this from Hunter Green's point of view, because from Frankie Montas's point of view, this is just a very awesome thing. He came here as a little bit of a get-right contract on a one-year deal, and what better to show your next employer to go to free agency with this year than saying, look, I went there and I was the opening day starter. Now, if he can also parlay that into, I was also game one of the playoff starter, game one of, the National League Championship Series starter, game one World Series starter, things like that. If he continues to parlay this and he shows this, then I absolutely love it. But my initial reaction to this is just shock. I was kind of waiting for Hunter Green to be announced with this, or if it wasn't him, I thought it was going to be Andrew Abbott.
Yeah, the Reds have made it clear for multiple years now that they wanted Hunter Green to be the face, to be the guy that they were putting front and center as far as these young pitchers go. Obviously, we're looking more and more at Ellie De La Cruz and Matt McClain on the offensive player side. But from the pitchers, from this rookie crop, Hunter Green was the guy. First guy to get the extension. He's the guy they've been highlighting. He was but front of the rotation in a very bad rotation last year. This caught me off guard just because it doesn't line up with the way things have always been done. And that's not me saying that it's bad. It's just me saying that it's different. And I didn't put any real thought into this. So, trying to process it today. And I think we should dig more into what it means for Hunter coming up here in a minute.
Yeah, I was going to say, I have done a lot of thinking about this, and I really want to talk about Hunter's point of view and what this means for him, and want to react to the comments section. I know you guys have some thoughts as to what's going on in David Bell's mind as he picks Frankie Montas over Hunter Green. We are going to get into all of that coming up right after this, because first I want to shout out today's sponsor, and that is FanDuel. Get buckets on FanDuel. We are heading into conference championship week when it comes to college basketball. No better time of year than March when you've got college basketball going into the tournament. You've got opening day just around the corner, and FanDuel is here for you. If you go to FanDuel.com/lockedon and join today, your first winning wager of $5 or more will get you $150 in bonus bets back. And with March Madness coming along, there's going to be so many opportunities to take advantage of there. With, maybe the Bearcats can make a run in the Big 12 tournament. Xavier, they're playing basketball too. You could look into that. And then also you've got baseball futures. You've got different statistical futures like this. My favorite bet up until this point, and we're going to discuss this on the next podcast about Noelvi Marte winning Rookie of the Year. Well, you can also look at some other things like you've got Cy Young odds, and Hunter Green was 27-1 last I saw. I haven't looked at Frankie Montas. I have to look him up here, and we'll talk about him on an upcoming episode. But FanDuel is the best place to take your sports knowledge and turn it into cash. Go to FanDuel.com/lockedon today, and your first $5 winning wager will get you $150 in bonus bets back. FanDuel is an official partner of the NBA and the official sportsbook of Locked On. Also, sponsoring today's podcast is Amazon Fire TV, because when it comes to sports and all the great stuff that comes with it, Fire TV is your destination for them. They've got live games, they've got highlights, and they've got in-depth analysis. Fire TV offers amazing viewing experiences with smart TVs, as well as the Fire TV stick that you can plug into any existing TV that provides access to millions of movies and TV episodes, as well as free and live TV. Whether it's opening weekend for baseball or the college basketball tournament, you're going to want to have a Fire TV. Fire TV recently created Fire TV channels to deliver a constant supply of the latest videos from your favorite sports brands, all for free. That includes us, all of us here at the Locked On Podcast Network, and most of the big pro leagues and college conferences as well. Fire TV channels let you dive into all the games, analysis, highlights, and more to keep up to date on all the latest of the world of sports, March Madness, NBA, MLB, and lots more. Not to mention great news, entertainment, gaming, travel, cooking videos as well. Fire TV channels rocks. So check it out on Fire TV and Alexa devices. If you haven't checked out Fire TV channels, you should. Trust me on this. To learn more, visit Amazon.com/LockedOnFireTV. Thanks, as always, for joining us and making us your first listen, your second listen, your third listen, all the listens today. We've got so much Red stuff to talk about. We really wanted to focus in on the Frankie Montas news. Frankie Montas being named opening day starter by David Bell after Sunday's spring training win over the Cleveland Guardians. And the move took us by surprise. If you missed the first segment, go check that out. But this is the other part for me, because I feel like this can be taken two ways if you're Hunter Green. This is either, number one, a slap in the face by passing you over. And to be honest with you, if I was Hunter Green, I think I'd be okay if Andrew Abbott got picked. But the new guy, the guy just coming in, and yeah, he's got major league experience and all this other stuff, but you're the dude that leads this pitching staff. So he could take it that way. What he's most likely going to do, because Hunter Green is an awesome individual and probably is going to take this in stride, and he's going to look at this as a challenge. He's going to look at this as the Reds saying, look, we get it. You're working on a curveball. You're working on a splitter. You're trying to become that pitcher that we see you becoming in the future. We don't think you're there yet. And we don't think that, we're trying to celebrate a work in progress. We want to celebrate the finished product. And I think that's the way he's going to take that. But I don't know. That's kind of the two messages I see them sending here.
The phrase that keeps running through my head is shot across the bow. This feels like a shot across the bow from the Reds that's saying, while we still believe you can be an ace, whilst we still believe you can be a number one, you aren't an ace and you aren't our number one. You need to work harder. And since you're not our number one, since you're not our ace, you're not starting in one of the greatest days in sports in any place in the country, opening day in Cincinnati. We're going to go with Frankie Montas, the experienced veteran who has put up great seasons in the past. His 2021 season, 32 starts, a 3.37 ERA, and 187 innings pitched. He has done it. His last full season, 2022, 27 starts, a little bit higher ERA at 4.05, but that was in, playing for Oakland. So I give him a little bit of credit for what he was doing at the time. For Hunter Green, this is the time where he is now going to have to get himself a little bit more motivated and take a step forward. You're right. You mentioned that he's working on pitches and he's doing things. And, the Reds are notoriously great at keeping background information from getting out. And I just wonder if they've been asking him to do this all along and add these pitches all along, and he's been resistant. So this is the great motivator. This feels like when you're trying to challenge your kids a little bit. So you kind of withhold from them something they want until they can get it done. Give them something to work for. Give them something to chase. This really feels a lot like that. And I don't have a problem with the move, really, Jeff. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, it's just game one of 162, and there will be plug and plays in this rotation throughout the year. But again, it's opening day in Cincinnati. If you want to go with the aged veteran, it's going to be his age 31 season. But if you want to go with the old guy on the staff, as far as the starters goes for opening day, absent a Verlander or a Kershaw or one of those guys that you just give it to it based on name, give it to the guy that's done it the longest. I'm okay with that.
I find it interesting. We've got a lot of mixed responses here in the comments section. I want to look at a few of these. Michael Smith says Hunter hasn't earned it. And I would agree. I mean, he's been an okay pitcher. He just hasn't been the ace. I keep saying that he will be the ace. He hasn't gotten there yet. We also have one from Main Street Duel who says Hunter has plenty of opening days to start in his career. Montas has the experience and it takes the pressure off the younger arms. I don't necessarily know that I agree with taking the pressure off of them. I think it's a message. It's a message to Hunter, and in a lesser extent, it's a message to Andrew Abbott and Graham Ashcraft as well, that not only were you far away from opening day, we're taking the new guy that we just brought in here and are rolling with him. Corbin's World checks in, says sports is a meritocracy. The Reds are finally falling in line. And maybe there's a
Fair
point to
point.
that. And you kind of mentioned the idea that, in the past, the Reds haven't necessarily needed to go on a performance basis because we have constantly said this isn't a team that was trying to win games. It was a team that was trying to build a core. It was trying to bring in the talent. Well, they've done that. And we've gotten to the point where the window is opening. And you got to take advantage of the window as you possibly can. Maybe this is how they see them taking the most advantage of the window that they've opened. But this also for me, and it's something that we said all winter, was that the Reds need to bring in somebody who kind of resets this rotation a little bit. And that's what David Bell's doing with this, right? Like, it kind of feels like he's resetting the rotation with Frankie Montas.
Let's talk about this for a second. I want to get into this. SVC Sport Zone says, not a huge deal. It allows Green to settle into a less intense spot to get off to a good start. Green's number one key is becoming more efficient. I think this will help him not shoulder so much. There's a piece of this that I want to agree with. It will allow Green to settle in a less intense spot. If they don't juggle the rotation, that means that for at least the first couple months, the majority of Frankie Montas starts will be against the other team's number one.
Mm-hmm.
It also means that then Hunter Green is not going to be going against the other team's number one. It will allow the offensive side of the team to possibly be in a better scenario to run support Hunter Green, to run support Graham Ashcraft, to run support Abbott and Lodolo, because they're not facing that number one. Maybe they do feel that will take some of the pressure off for putting your younger pitchers in games that potentially could be always 1-0, 2-, those kind of games, those
Right.
run controlled, better pitching games. You match them up with not the other team's best pitching, which gets them more run support. I could see that being a factor that plays into it. Thinking psychologically, because Montas has been around much longer, he's okay being in a pitcher's duel and not going to overthrow, overpress, overpush. Montas is not trying to add pitches while everybody else is. Montas is not trying to find his way and develop new major league skills while everybody else is. So Montas can go out there against the other team's number one and just do what he does and may the best guy win. Whereas everybody else is going to feel that pressure plus try to work on their stuff. So from that standpoint, this does make a lot of sense. I like that point. SVC, you didn't say all that, but you steered me in that direction. So I wanted to talk about that.
You kind of brought it home for him there. Yeah, I think, and sorry, clicked on this one. BFD checks in and says, odd decision, but I'm all in. And look, I think this is probably the hardest part with this, because we know where this franchise has been the last 30 years, and that has been obscurity. And it's not been a team that has been close to any sort of title contention conversation. And as much as we want to put them there, they still have a lot to prove, to show other people that they deserve to be there. And maybe this is that first step. Maybe this is the first step of them like making the right decisions for once and not going off of the wrong reasons. That's always been something that we have always said, like, boy, they made this decision. Does this really make sense? They moved on. Think of what they've moved on from in the last 3 months, let's say. Nick Senzel, gone. Top prospect, off the board. Jose Barrero, gone. We will talk more about this in the next episode, because I definitely want to hash this out a little bit more, but I'm just pointing this out. Top prospect, Jose Barrero, gone. You've got a lot of other prospects that are on this list that they're like, look, we're giving you ample opportunity, and maybe this is just them telling you, look, Hunter, we are not handing you the keys to the car. You've got to earn those keys to the car. And in that vein, I think I like this decision. I'm going to have to talk myself into this a little bit more, and I am of the mindset that this iteration of the Reds is running itself correctly. It's just they've got to prove it in the wins and loss column because they continue to back up the fact that they are the ones in control, that they know how this team is moving forward. So if it works, then by golly, we're going to celebrate it. But we all know that this is Nick Kroll and this is David Bell working together, so it better work.
Yeah, and for me, I don't have to talk myself into it. I'm fine with it. For all the reasons that I've just said. I the more I think about it, the more I like it, actually. I'm good. Let's go. Can we do it tomorrow? Opening day, let's just go.
It's only
cancel
18
the
days
rest
away.
of the spring. Let's go.
Yeah, well, and in that vein, we've got a lot to talk about from the most recent spring training game that the Reds had. They beat the Guardians, doesn't matter, wins and losses, whatever. There were a lot of great stuff about that game. Guys coming back, guys playing new positions, good performances and things like that. We are going to talk about that on our next Locked On Reds podcast, but we wanted to get this out here because the Frankie Montas stuff, the opening day starter is always such a big announcement, and the fact that it was Frankie Montas over the guys that we thought it was going to be, Steve and I were both like, dude, we got to go live right now. We gotta react. So I appreciate everybody for joining in on this episode. Make sure you follow us. That way you don't miss anything that we've got coming for you all throughout spring training as we lead up to opening day, March 28th, Reds and Nationals. I can't wait, man. I cannot wait. So get us out of here, this live episode, Steve.
All right, folks, we're going to be back in your feeds. If you're watching us live, we will have our regular Monday episode coming your way where we'll talk about everything we didn't talk about here. If you're watching the replay of this, there's another episode coming in the feed right behind this. That's the regular Monday episode, because in that episode, we are going to discuss all of the news over the weekend. We're going to discuss all of the rumors we're hearing. We're going to discuss all of the guys in new positions and all of the guys making their debuts. We're gathering up all the information and we're bringing it back to keep you locked on Reds every single day.